Welcome to the Camera Dude Podcast, where we focus our lens on business. We will cover the art of business and everything in between. Join your host, Rob Moorman, a seasoned photographer and RV park owner with over 27 years of experience, as he captures insights from industry experts and fellow entrepreneurs. From mastering customer service to igniting creativity, we explore the common threads that weave through successful businesses. Get ready to click, snap, and discover on the Camera Dude Podcast.
Welcome to the Camera Dude Podcast. I'm Rob Moorman, your host and Camera Dude. Join us today as we dive into all things business and life. So hey, let's get cracking, guys. Today's guest is an amazing businessman, an authority in his field as far as I'm concerned. He owns and operates a successful RV park and runs a consulting firm for the RV park industry. Today's episode will be packed full of great business nuggets, so put your seatbelt on, stick around because we're going for a wild ride. Please welcome Ed Bridgman.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And Ed, I want to correct myself just in case. Pronounce your name properly to make sure that I didn't mess it up.
It's Bridgman, B-R-I-D-G-M-A-N. There's no E in Bridgman, and that confuses everybody because the E is silent, and I'm a Six Sigma expert, which means that we eliminate anything that is of no value. So the E wasn't providing any value, so my family got rid of it.
I love it. That's a perfect and well put. My last name, as you know, is Moorman with no E, but everybody spells it either like the religion, M-O-R-M-O-N, or M-O-O-R-E-M-A-N, but it's just simply Moorman. And the ongoing joke is that's how I met my wife. I told her I was Moorman, and she fell for it. I don't know. She hates that joke, and I've been saying it for 28 years, as long as we've been married. Anyhow, Ed, do me a favor. Let's take a minute, and rather than me botch it up, I'll have you just introduce yourself and go down your list of things, tell us a little bit, all the way from the beginning, maybe even your first job, if you were flipping burgers, to where you are now.
I won't bore you with that much. I started working on the farm when I was 6 years old. And with our family had a farm ranch, and I hired myself out at 7 years of age to break horses, young colts that were too small for full-size people to ride. And I hired myself out to other farmers when I was 9, had my own pickup truck to get to work. And by the time I was 12, I was managing a green monster for other farmers. That's a hay truck that goes out in fields and picks up hay by the time I was 12. So I'm not going to bore you with everything in between, but eventually went into the Air Force and got away from Kansas. And the Air Force sent me to school in Colorado to become an electrical engineer, and then assigned me to Austin, Texas. And I got out of the Air Force after the end of my tour, but I stayed in the central Texas area and had a ranch in Texas, and used my electrical engineering and my top secret clearance to work at IBM and Motorola and different companies like that. I was primarily at Motorola. I was at Motorola for a long time. Most of my career was at Motorola, and it was at Motorola that I became one of the 5 co-authors of Six Sigma, and we earned the first Malcolm Baldrige Award from President Ronald Reagan, and that's what got me into consulting. So I've been consulting since 1990, and about Six Sigma, which I already mentioned, is about reducing waste, reducing your cost, exceeding your customers' expectations while improving your profit margin. And that's really what my focus is. And then I got into the RV industry 13 years ago, and I've been enjoying the RV industry ever since.
Very good. So you talk about the Six Sigma. That's something that probably in your consulting you use to help others run their RV parks. Do you also consult for other businesses outside of that industry?
I have been focused the last 10 years or so. I've been focused just in the RV industry. last year we did over 30 RV designs in a year. So that's almost 3 a month. And that is quite time consuming. But up until 10 years ago, yes, IBM was a huge customer of mine. As part of winning the Six Sigma Malcolm Baldrige Award, President Ronald Reagan assigned myself and 4 other people to go around the country and work with leading American industries, GE, General Motors, Xerox, Exxon, IBM. That's when I became introduced to IBM, to help them to be more efficient and exceed customers' expectations while improving their profit margin.
Okay, so that's all above this little photographer and small RV park owner's head, but not really. So, Ed, my second question for you that I have out of a million, right, is that we actually want to know, how do you handle a disgruntled customer? What's your best way of taking care of them without getting a smear campaign on all the different review platforms, and yet maybe even satisfying them, making them happy and keeping them if possible?
That is a perfect question, and I think very apropos to every industry. A disgruntled person is often frustrated and angry, but oftentimes not necessarily at the situation that you are responsible for. What I have discovered is that this frustrated, angry person really wants to be heard. First and foremost, they have an issue that they want to get off their chest. They've been thinking about this issue a lot longer than you have, okay? They have rehearsed in their mind walking up to somebody or calling somebody and ripping them a new one, okay? That wasn't an accident. That didn't just spontaneously happen. So they're far more prepared for this conversation than you are. So the best thing that I have found to do is to mentally step back from the situation, maybe not physically, but emotionally and mentally step back from the situation and try to look from a broader perspective and let them talk. Primarily, let them get it off their chest. You don't know if they got up on the wrong side of the bed. You don't know if they're having a fight with their kid. You don't know if they got a stent that was put in last week and it's poking their belly in the wrong place. You don't know what's going on in this person's mind. You need to let them get it out. They're under pressure and they're blowing it off, okay? And if you try to interrupt and if you try to stop that pressure from leaking out, it's going to stay until it all gets out, okay? And more often than not, while you're listening, sincerely listening and letting them vent, they'll come up with their own solution. 9 times out of 10, they'll talk their way around the whole situation from all sides, and you're just sitting there going, okay, I hear you. Okay, I hear you. And before too long, they're like arguing your point and saying, well, I know you've got to make a profit. I realize you've got to stay in business. And I realize you got to, you have to mow. So you blew your grass clippings up against my RV, but you got to mow. So I guess there was no choice. And half the time, no response is required. Okay. You can let them work it out their own self and say, well, I'm glad we had this opportunity. I'm glad you shared that with me.
Absolutely well said. And I'm glad to hear that. So something went through my mind while you were saying that. If they're venting in front of you and you allow them to vent fully until there's no more air left in there, they're not going to vent elsewhere, hopefully. So you've come in, they've got it all out. But if you cut them short, they're going to go online and continue to vent that way.
Exactly. You've got to give them a place where they can get it out, because they're going to stay mad until somebody has heard what they got to say.
Now, let me ask you a theoretical question. So, and it may not be theoretical. This person that was angry because some grass clippings got on the side of their new motorhome and stuck there because there was dew on it or whatever. What would your answer to that be? Go there, rinse it off, dry off the area that you cleaned, and give them a free ice cream cone in your virtual store. I don't know. Are you thinking along those lines?
Absolutely. So we have concrete sites and asphalt roads, and we don't have gravel. So our lawnmowers are not throwing rocks. We're throwing dry grass clippings. And yes, just yesterday, someone complained that dry grass clippings were thrown up against his RV. And he's like, "You've mowed every week since we've been here, and we've never had this problem. How come we're having it today?" Well, our primary power mower, lawnmower, went in the shop, okay? And it has a guard on it that controls the grass clippings. So we're using our secondary power mower this week, and it blows a different way. And I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Let me go down, and you have to pay attention. You have to listen. You have to let them vent, and then you have to show that you care. Nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. So you have to physically walk down there and look at it and see if there was some damage done. By the time I got there was no grass clippings against his RV, okay? They had fallen off, okay? And so I'm listening to him while we're walking. We get all the way down to his RV. There's nothing there to see. And he ends up apologizing to me. Okay, we got to mow. I understand power mowers go in the shop. I understand. Okay. And it's not a problem. It all dissolves. And I don't care for conflict. It's not that I'll go out of my way to avoid it, but I'll definitely not go out of my way to go find it either. So, when you take somebody who's disgruntled and by the end of the conversation, they're apologizing to you, I call that a pretty successful conversation.
It is. And I love the way you put that, because I see a lot of people not solving these issues properly, business owners, I should say. When something does come up, they ignore it, or they push it away, or they don't know how to handle it. So they kind of cowered away from the situation. But you would stand tall, stand strong, ears wide open, arms ready to assist, and let them take the heat for a while, and then go solve the problem. All right, that makes sense. Well, Ed, thanks for sharing that. No, it's not actually, but I think our egos get in the way, don't you?
Well, when you reach my age of 64, I can't afford an ego anymore. I've made so many mistakes in my life. I've done something stupid. We could do a whole podcast just on Ed's stupid mistakes.
Well, I think we could do one that would be 4 hours long if we add my mistakes into it as well, for sure. Well, Ed, what I want to find out, a couple of things when we're going to move down your list first of your intro, but this podcast is about finding all of the things in businesses that, even though one guy's making a widget, someone else is providing a photographic service, someone else is maybe a chiropractor, and so on. We have so much in common when it comes to how we earn money, how we cut our overhead, how we handle customers, whether they're a disgruntled customer or a happy customer. Building relationships and all of those things is important. So I want to move into that direction once we start into the questions. Tell me a little bit. You're a busy man. And it explains to me, first of all, why you always have cowboy boots on. You have a horse history. And I like your cowboy boots, by the way. That's cool stuff. And I grew up around horses as well. My family showed horses, and we had stables where we rented out to other horse owners and so on. Of course, I was a bit of a rebel. I had a dirt bike. My sisters had horses. But even then, I had to dig out stalls. I was the guy stuck with that nasty job of doing that. So tell me a little bit about your hobbies, your background. What do you do for fun, or do you?
Oh, I love anything on the water. I've taught water skiing. I've taught scuba diving. I love the spearfish. Anything on the water. I've taught snow skiing. I've taught karate. I like anything like that. I'm a pilot, a private pilot. Anything adventurous, travel. Just last year we went to Africa for a long extended vacation, and I fell in love with Africa. I love anything having to do with animals, seeing animals in their natural habitat. Uh, anything like that is my hobby.
Awesome. Well, you and I have that in common. I worked at a little tiny dive shop called Treasure Island Divers, which is in Treasure Island, Florida, not the one I think it's Cayman. It's just Treasure Island, Cayman, if I have that correct. And I was not an instructor. I chose not to be because all the instructors I knew were broke. They loved what they did, but they didn't make a dime. And so silly me, I chased after professional photography instead and realized all those guys are broke too. So not really. The truth is there's a lot of great success in that industry if it's handled properly. So I love to dive. I haven't had a chance to dive in about 4 years, and I'm looking forward to it. My last dive was at Little Cayman on the Bloody Bay Wall, and I was hired by Little Cayman Reef Resort to photograph the resort for all their marketing and PR needs and so on. And they tried to pay me, and I said, no, save me a room for a week. I'll come back. And I spent my time diving the whole time.
I'll be happy to go with you.
That was good. Well, and we mentioned a lot of it, but I'm going to read this anyways. I went to your Facebook page and literally stole verbatim what you have on there. And even though you've mentioned some of it, I'm going to read it right off so that our listeners, and then we'll jump into the heart of this, okay? So you state on your Facebook page under your About section, the more complicated my responsibilities become, the more I use what I learned growing up on a ranch in Kansas. The Air Force brought me to Austin in '81 and launched my career as an electrical hardware design engineer. I have worked for IBM. Do I say this right? Tracor?
Yeah.
Okay, Tracor and American Megatrends, but most of my career was with Motorola, where in 1989 I co-authored a Six Sigma manual and spent the next 3 years on an audit team introducing this Six Sigma concept to Motorola's largest suppliers and customers. Additionally, I have been a consultant since 1989, facilitating a leadership management and companies. Okay, and I received my MBA from St. Edward's University, where I also earned a Safe Zone certification and worked as an adjunct professor teaching both finance and business courses. And it's not over. For our listeners, pour yourself a drink, come back, sit down, because there's a lot more. All right, so I am also an adjunct professor for Park and Concordia Universities. I earned a project management profession certification known as PMP from the Project Management Institute in 2002. Maybe you could share a little bit about that. I moved to Florida in 2010. I am passionate about working with adults to attain their goals. I have coached snow and water skiing, karate, country western and ballroom dancing, algebra, that's my weakest, communication and leadership skills, basketball, business and finance courses, electrical engineering, scuba diving, and many other topics. I enjoyed piloting aircraft, SeaWorld, Universal Studios, going to the movies, hiking, biking, hearing live music, drinking pina coladas, and walking in the rain. Oh, wait, no, sorry. I wasn't sure, Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Feel free to add.
No. The last part was just me for those listening. All right. So, guys, we have just a quick moment from our sponsor.
Are you ready to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and experience a taste of old Florida? Welcome to Sunburst RV Resort, your oasis nestled in tranquil woods and surrounded by picturesque farmland. At Sunburst, we offer modern amenities with a touch of rustic charm. Enjoy our 2 pools, our clubhouse, our game room. It's perfect for families and winter guests seeking refuge from everyday life. With full RV sites and hookups, cozy cabins, and spacious tent sites, there's something for everyone. Whether you're a snowbird seeking solace or a family looking for summer fun, Sunburst is your destination for peace, quiet, and country living. And the best part? We're just an easy country hour away from beautiful beaches and a few minutes away from the majestic Blackwater River. Explore nearby quaint towns, indulge in some shopping, and savor delicious meals at local restaurants just a scenic drive away. Escape to Sunburst RV Resort and make memories that'll last a lifetime.
All right, welcome back, Ed. Glad to have you still here with us. So the heart of our recording is just simple. I have a lot of questions. Feel free to hit rabbit trails. But also, if we get off too far, we'll just veer back over here to the notes and go. And you mentioned it already, but tell me how you got into the RV and consulting business, or better yet, tell me what you've done to grow that business.
So in 2010, there was a big oil spill out in the Gulf of Mexico. BP was fined $24 billion. That money was supposed to be spent along a 200-mile coastline of the Gulf Coast, and it was supposed to be spent on tourism. I was in the consulting business. I was working with gambling resorts along the Gulf Coast and helping them to provide better service so that they could exceed their customers' expectations better and draw more customers in. And this intrigued me that the federal government was going to be spending $24 billion along the Gulf Coast in tourism. And I said, I need to get deeper into the tourism industry. So I did a lot of research, and I discovered that the RV industry was blowing up. It's a 100-year-old industry, and I can prove that. These Airstreams celebrated 100 years in business in 2019. So Airstream has been building Airstreams for a long time. Parks have been around for over 100 years. Campgrounds have been around for over 100 years. And by the way, there's a difference between a park, a campground, a resort, a community, and a hybrid. I don't know if you want to get into that, but I realized that the RV industry was growing at double-digit growth every year, even though it's a mature industry, and that growth was being fueled by younger, more diversified individuals that I saw were going to be in the market for a long time. At the same time, America was facing, and is still facing, a low-income housing shortage. So I saw these two huge industry traits going side by side and fueling the RV industry. So I said, okay, I'm going to get into RV industry. I'm going to get right smack in the middle of that 200 miles along the Gulf Coast, and I'm going to find the best piece of property I can find, and I'm going to build the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world, and I'm going to use that as my showroom while I go out and consult other people who are building RV destinations.
Excellent. That's well put, actually. And I appreciate you stating that. One of the things I admire about all my RV park peers, as you know, I stumbled into the industry. My father passed away. I inherited a small mom and pop park, and nonetheless, it has its own set of positives and negatives, as every business would have. But I admire your ability to dive into what you did and absolutely take on all that overhead and be able to stand your ground and bravely walk in and drop that amount, build the park, knowing that they'll come, and then run it in such a way that you have repeat business, longtime clients, and make back what you've invested into it. That's a big investment. Where'd the bravery come from to invest? And, you don't have to give numbers, but let's face it. How many acres is your park?
We have 20 acres that we keep mowed like a golf course. We have 3 buildings that make up 11 total. There's 4 bathrooms, but we have 11 toilets. I came out through COVID, so I wasn't allowed to have a pool. So I went out and got full-size jacuzzis, 5 full-size jacuzzis that we can deliver to your site. I invented an on-demand hot water system that I can put on a small trailer, and I pull it to each site, and I can fill that jacuzzi with either hot water or cold water. We invented quite a few things, actually. We were the very first in the country to be able to automatically meter and charge for electricity for every guest. Not only if they stay overnight, when they check in, their meter, both electric and water, are automatically read. And then when they check out the next day, that meter is read again. And we subtract the little number from the big number. We find out how much electricity they've used. We provide them 25 kilowatt hours per day. If they're there 4 days, we give them 100 kilowatt hours. But if they exceed that, and right now, everybody is exceeding that 25 kilowatt hours per day. Most people are doubling that, which if you're not metering and charging for excessive use of electricity, you're probably losing money. So we were the very first to be able to do that. So not only did I start from scratch with raw land, but I also came in with these new ideas that nobody else was doing. And quite frankly, nobody even had considered, or I get a lot of resistance up front of, nobody's going to want to do that. Nobody's going to want to pay for the excessive amount of electricity they use. And I said, Joe Biden is getting ready to win the White House, and he's preaching clean energy, and he's going to have us all electric cars here pretty quick and stuff like that. And you better start thinking about how you're going to charge for electricity. So I came in and did it all from scratch and was the first one to do it. And so that doesn't answer your question. Your question was, how did you have the bravery to do that? It has a lot to do with faith. If you feel like this is the direction that God is sending you, then who can go against you when you're confident that God is on your side? But I didn't know how it was all going to end up. I didn't know the ending. A lot of people don't want to start the race because they don't know where the finish line is. Sometimes you just got to start running. Okay. The physics says that an object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. Okay. And so the hardest thing is to just get going. Okay. Start going. And, you can adjust. It's easier to adjust when you're on the run than it is to get going. And then, that's hard to do, is to get going. You just got to go.
That is action-packed, and there's a lot there. So what I want to do is unpack some of it a minute. But it's good. No, I like it. And you told me up front that you and I have the same personality. First of all, I love your faith, and I love your ability to talk about it. You and I have that in common. So I agree with you there 100%. And the thing that I see that's provided success and longevity to your business is simply that you, first and foremost, were innovative. So you came up with new things that other parks weren't doing, that was providing a source, if you will, that you're doing something in a different way that allowed you to be profitable, made it easier for the client. They can't tell you that you're overcharging them because you have it. Here's the numbers. They're right here. Your unit has 5,000 air conditioners in it, and you're taking up more electricity than a house right now. Why are you doing that? As I know, owning a park, we run into that as well. But the second one you had mentioned, you zigged when they zagged. That's my statement I like to use quite a bit. I'll just in brief say that, I used to be an architectural photographer. I spent my time working for really large home builders, KB Homes, Rutland Homes, etc. And the housing market had crashed. Remember those years? 2008, I think it was. And I lost over 250 clients, architects, and interior decorating clients. Now, I have always done other types of work, corporate events, parties, weddings, but architectural was my bread and butter. When it vanished, my business partner, who's also my life partner, my wife, she and I looked at each other, what do we do now? Because that money vanished. And I said, well, we were high dollar, lower volume. Let's change our mindset and let's do high volume, low dollar and start doing school portraiture. So my portraiture outside of the studio where we do family portraits and things, that's a little high end. But the clients that we work with in the schools, what are they buying? Anywhere from $50 down to $20 packages. And in a bad time, people can afford that. So we switched to that and ended up doing 8 different schools now. I'm actually making more money in schools than I was doing all the architectural work. So I never looked back. But if I hadn't zagged and started doing schools to replace that work, I would have been down. So you're zigging and zagging. Let's call it tacking if you're a sailor, right? You tack to get the most benefit out of your wind and so on. You are innovating portable hot tubs because people aren't allowed to swim in a pool together, but they are allowed to camp. You roll this hot tub up. You've designed a portable hot water heater and put it in. That's innovative. And my only question to you is, why are you not selling this now to other RV park owners? Because that's a marketable product. That's a whole nother business.
I have a half a dozen patents that left over from Motorola when I was designing microprocessors. And almost every job I go to, I end up having some patents. I personally don't see the benefit of spending the money to protect your patent. So even though we came up with a half a dozen innovative ideas here and we've incorporated them here at the homestead, I gladly give them. I give my designs. I give my technology. We have a patent. There's a patent pending. It's not mine. I gave it to the dumpster guy. The dumpster guy came out and we had a whole new way of automatically opening up the gate when the dumpster's here, when the dumpster guy's here. So he doesn't have to get out of the truck and open the gate and all of that stuff. We didn't want him to have to do all of that. So we designed something and they sent out an engineer and they did all the drawings on it and they're submitting that for a patent now. And I gave it to them for free. I don't want anything to do with it. So even my reservation software, I went to them and I said, I want to be able to charge people who use an excessive amount of electricity, but I need to know how many days they're here. So I need to communicate with your reservation software. And it was Camp Life with Tyler Duffy. And this was 4 years ago. And he said, I have 680 parks that I work with and nobody wants to meter electricity. And I said, Tyler, I will pay your engineers overtime. So to help me design this, to write the code, to make it so that when my person checks in, we automatically harvest the numbers from the cloud of what these electric and water meters are reading. And then when their bill is due at the end of the month, or when they check out at the end of a week, or when they check out the next day, it goes out and harvests that again, and we put it through an algorithm. We find out how much they used, and then we find out how many days they were there. And we give them 25 kilowatt hours a day. I used the example earlier, 4 days, 100 kilowatt hours. We subtract that from how much they owe. If they owe less than that, thank you very much. If they owe more than that, charge them. And he said, I don't have anybody that's doing that. And I said, you got to be the first. So Tyler Duffy and Camp Life was the first to be able to do that. And they now have over 1,800 campgrounds that are doing that with them.
That's fantastic. And it's genius on your part. And what you did is you gave that company a boost. You gave back to them. And that's what this industry is about. For those listening that are in business that don't know, I would say that in an RV park, overhead is a lot more than what you would think. I was naive. I inherited a park. What? You park them, plug them in. What's the big deal? Well, it's 1,000,000 times more than that. And I now know that. But having said that, a great way to lose money is not charge properly for the electrical use. And we can't profit on electricity, but we need to break even on that. We need to get our money back on that so that our overhead is less, so that we can produce the revenue we need to run our business. Let's jump into our notes a minute. In your bio, you said you learned something about life and business from the ranch. In brief, tell us about that.
So like I mentioned earlier, I started ranching and being on the farm when I was 6 years old. My father had another business, and we didn't live on the farm. So he would drop me off at the end of the lane, and I'd walk up a quarter of a mile lane. And for example, we had several different tractors, and my father was pretty poor on maintenance, and I didn't know anything about maintenance. So our big tractor that we used for the majority of our big jobs, it wouldn't start. The batteries were shot. Okay. So you had to use a smaller tractor to pull the bigger tractor and pop the clutch and get it to run. But I'm 6 years old and I'm by myself. Okay. And there's no cell phone. There's no way to communicate to anybody. So you always left the big tractor in a position that you could get in front of it and pull it. And you hook the small tractor up to it. That's easy. But now you got to get you set the brakes on the big tractor, and you get in a little tractor and you start dragging it. Okay. There's only one person driving two vehicles at this time. Okay. And then you jump off the little tractor and you run back to the big tractor, pop the clutch in, put it in gear, pop the clutch out, get it running. Now you set the brakes, but they were worthless anyway because nobody did any maintenance on the brakes either. So now the little tractor's up there going by itself, dragging the big tractor around, and you can't leave it in gear now because it's running. And then you have to jump off the big tractor, run up to the little tractor and get it out of gear. This was my way of growing up. Okay. So you go out in the field and you're feeding 13 bales of hay out of the pickup, and you leave the window rolled down, and you jump out of the pickup with it in first gear and jump in the back of the pickup and start feeding hay and reach through the window and steer so that you don't run out of the pasture. That's how you grow up.
So that's a work ethic that was built into you, and you learned how to do things efficiently, and you learned how to toughen up. I have some gentleman that's interning with me, and we're in our 8th hour of the day photographing, and we have another 6 or 7 hours to go, and they're just mind-boggled by that. And I say, hey, I'm just getting started. What are you guys talking about? But we were raised that way. We've learned that you've got to dig in. Don't get me wrong, taking time to enjoy life and travel and do the things we love, absolutely. But I find that working extremely hard and almost a little too much makes those times that you do get even more sweeter than they would be if you had a lot of time.
You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out on your own. When you're an entrepreneur, people working for you come to you and say, whoop, I messed that up. See you later. It's 5:00. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Whoop, I messed this up, and I broke the lawnmower. The belt came off. I don't know. It's not. I had a person the other day say the lawnmower's not running right, and I'm like, "What'd you do?" And it was a lady, and she said, "I kept mowing. I mowed for another 6 hours but I had to go back over and over and over everything because it wasn't mowing worth a darn." And I'm like, "Did you look underneath it?" So she said no. So she had her husband look underneath it, and he said, "Looks good to me. I don't see anything." So I was on business trip, so I got home the next day. I looked underneath it, and the blades were installed upside down, completely upside down. And her husband didn't. He's 57 years old, and he doesn't know how a blade works on a lawnmower. And she just kept mowing. Okay, so, but as an entrepreneur, you've got to. It don't make any difference if it's software. It doesn't make any difference if it's hardware. It doesn't make any difference if it's lawnmower. It doesn't make any difference if there's something in the toilet. You got to go fix it. Okay. So that's just the way I was raised. There is nobody to pass the buck to.
No, and nobody, if you own it, nobody will do it the way you do. They don't take that personal ownership. It's not there. They don't have it. They just want to go home and clock in and clock out. And in some ways, in some ways I'm sad for them because they're missing out on life, and they're going to just have an average scenario forever because they're not taking the risks, the chances. Or they don't have to work for themselves, but if they show some form of ownership, not too much, but certainly not enough, then that owner of that company will see them and award them for that and move them up and let them climb the ladder. But so many people are stuck in that rotation of, being in the same thing every day. You remember the old commercial, the guy comes walking out, time to make the donuts, and that's kind of the attitude of a lot of people, but they're the first ones to sit around and complain about everything not being right, when in fact it's like, get up and rock and roll, man, let's do this. And from a man who wears cowboy boots, you're probably just simply saying, pull up by your own bootstraps and get busy. I understand. For the sake of time, let's jump in. I'm going to go right into question 3, I think it is. Yeah, tell me, repeat customers. That's an ongoing theme here on this podcast, in that, how important is it to me? The old saying, it's easier to get a client you already have. So what are you doing in brief, to have repeat customers year in and year out come back to your park?
So it goes back to my Six Sigma roots, is you've got to exceed their expectations. And then the second thing is you have to be willing to invest time. All right. So if people come down from the north in the winter time and then they go back up north in the spring, you're not going to have a repeat customer in June. Okay. That customer is not going to come back down till October. All right. Now, if you've exceeded their expectations, they may make a reservation in March before they leave for October. And what you're hoping is that in June, they're talking to their friend and their neighbor, and they're coming down with them in October. But we've been open 3 years. March of 2024, we were open 3 years. So it's now July. So we've been open 3 years and a few months, and we're seeing a lot of repeat customers, and they bring their friends, they bring their family.
So you're saying, and what I heard you say, and for our listeners, because it's a common conversation on this podcast, is you said exceed their expectations, which to me is customer service beyond their understanding. Okay. And then you say they go home and come back with a friend. Well, that's word of mouth. So when you do your job right, they fall in love with you, the owner, plus your park and your staff is up to the game that they're supposed to be, and everything's going well. They will tell others and they will come back. And as you know, if something goes bad, the domino effect of that can also go in the other direction. Yeah, especially in this industry.
You got to make sure that it doesn't go bad. I think one of your questions, if I read it right, was about marketing.
Yeah, please.
And if I could jump ahead a little bit, since the beginning of time, word of mouth has always been the best marketing tool. What we have an advantage of in the 21st century is that they're not just talking to their neighbor and their friend and their family. They go out to Google and do a Google review. And we have found Google reviews to be extremely important. 89%, according to Google, now who knows, maybe Google's lying, but according to Google, 89% of people, before they make a major purchase, check the Google reviews. So Google reviews are extremely important. But when this person writes this Google review, there may be 1,000 people that read that Google review. You send somebody home and they talk to 6 of their friends and 2 of their family members and their neighbor, that's less than 10 people. But there'll be 1,000 people that'll read that Google review. So we emphasize Google reviews. We've been open for just over 3 years, and we have over 330 Google reviews. We're carrying a 4.9 because I don't think it's possible to have a 5. Especially when you got 3 neighbors who've never been here before that give you a 1-star review. But those are the only 3 1-star reviews we have. And so, but it's extremely important that you plant, cultivate, and harvest those Google reviews. That's your biggest bang marketing dollar, biggest return on your marketing dollar, is to answer those Google reviews promptly, answer those Google reviews in a positive way, even if it's not necessarily a positive Google review. That is not a place to vent. Okay. That's a place to make certain you use mature, positive communication skills to respond to every single Google review and then plant them, cultivate them, and harvest them.
Sometimes I agree with you. And that right there is a book within itself. I have this saying, goodness, I recorded another podcast this morning and I used it there, but sometimes it's better to win a situation by losing. So if you have a customer, if we make a mistake, and I know you're this way, we're going to fix the problem. We'll move you to a new site. Let's rebuild your power pole. You can stay over here. I'll give you a few days extra. Whatever it is you do to appease that client in order to keep them happy, you'll win by losing. I find a lot of business owners in any industry get a bit of an ego and attitude. So sometimes we're wrong, we fix it. If the client's wrong and they're just extremely hard to please, then the situation is simply this. We want to lose by giving them everything, including your money back, and get out, because I don't want the smear campaign on social media or any other review platform that's out there. And to me, I would rather lose that money, get the client out the door quietly and happily, and put my energy back into another client that's willing to get involved in the park and be a positive asset for customers. It's kind of what you're saying in a wrapped up way. Okay, I love that. Well, let's talk about something. I'm going to jump down to 5 here. I'm going to read it verbatim. I find that many new entrepreneurs are hesitant to join an industry association. Tell our listeners how your memberships and involvement in them have helped to expand your career and build business relationships. So before you do that, I met you through an association for RV park owners. I was in dire need of help at the time, and you and several other people were very critical, if you will, in helping me get this thing off of the ground. So anyhow, tell us about your relationship, and go ahead and name all the associations oriented around it.
You mean critical in a positive way, right?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for the correction.
I currently travel all year round doing RV site feasibility analysis and RV designs, and boat and RV storage feasibility analysis and feasibility and designs for boat and RV storage. So I get invited to several state associations. I'm going to be the keynote speaker next year in Phoenix. I speak often at Texas Association of Community Owners. Pennsylvania, we're going to Pennsylvania. We're going to Carvick with the Carolinas. We're going to a glamping show this year in December. Florida, Alabama is where I met you originally, but I've seen you at others. SECO, Southeast Community Owners Association in Atlanta is next month. I think I saw you there too, I think.
Yeah, I haven't been this year. I got tied up. Tell our listeners, I think what I find is the new generation of entrepreneurs are hesitant to join. But I'm a membership person. I've been a member of Professional Photographers of America. It's the largest, oldest running professional photographers association worldwide. 30,000 members, and it's 90 years, I think. I hope I have that correct. It's 90 or 91 years. And then the Florida Professional Photographers, Tampa area. But also, on the other hand, my other business, I am in the ARVIC, the National Association, as well as the Florida-Alabama District, if you will. I couldn't have gotten to where my little park is now without my association membership and being able to meet people like you, learn from you, and get a step up in life. To me, how hard would that be to not have membership? To me, that's a lot.
So I mentioned earlier that I possess a top secret security clearance, and the only reason I can think of why someone would avoid joining an association is if they feel like they have some sort of secret that they don't want to share, okay, or something like that. And I'm unique, and I'm the first one to be metering and charging my guests for electricity. Well, I felt just the opposite, okay? I felt like that I'm the first, and the sooner I can get the majority of RV destination owners on board with this and charging for electricity, the less that I'll be the sore thumb, and the unusual person. Now, I also enjoy a huge advantage in the RV industry. I'm not familiar with the photography industry. I'm not familiar with the Walmart industry, retail or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a secret setting on your camera that you don't want everybody to be aware of. But in the RV industry, there is such a huge gulf between the demand for new RV sites and the supply of new RV sites that I can be 100% successful. The guy down the street can be 100% successful. The guy across town can be 100% successful. The guy in the next state can be 100% successful. And there will still be an untapped demand for more sites. The demand far exceeds what is provided in the supply.
I think that's awesome. And just for the listeners, the photography industry is amazingly the same way. Not all industries are, but we help each other. So if someone wants to get into what we would call volume photography, dance schools, regular schools, there's guys that do 30, 40,000 school portraits a year with a huge team of photographers that go out and so on. But how do you do that? How do you sell online? How do you get the images to the parents? What's the process for doing that? What's your contract with the school? And there's a million different things that you could go through. I share all of that, no matter what aspect of my business, either business. I was so happy to go to the RV industry associations and find the same type of camaraderie. I've always said that we all win when the industry that we're in as a whole is doing well. Whether that photography studio or RV park is a block away from my existing business, I will come down and help them paint the walls. If they're doing well, I'm doing well. And it feels good to help somebody get on their feet. It's that simple. And in photography, I'm the product. So if something happens to me and I get sick, I need relationships with other like-minded, quality photographers that understand their craft and the business of it inside and out. I had to go have hernia surgery one time, and I had these fashion shoots for this magazine, a local magazine, Tampa Bay Illustrated magazine, and I couldn't go. I was supposed to be healed and done in 2 weeks. It took me 4 weeks, and so I called a good friend of mine, Lee Burgess, and Lee stepped up to the plate and refused to charge me, and he shot every one of those sessions. If I wasn't in the association, I wouldn't have that backup. So there's a couple of parks near me. I talk to them all the time. Hey, your tractor's broke? Hang on, I'm loading mine up. I'll see you in an hour. And we go down and take care of whatever it is. They needed at a water main break. We needed to dig them out. So we did that, loaded our tractor up, hauled home, and we were done. But it's that kind of support that allows us to give each other. And I think that's what we get is not just education, but the read between the lines things that happens is that where you have backup friendship, lifelong friends that are going to be there forever for you, as well as support in your industry. Why go alone? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. So, all right, let's go to another question really quick. Let's see. I'm going to jump down. Well, we're going to stick with 6. So a lot of business owners, okay, do one type of thing. There's many, many photographers, especially in their industry, that only offer one service. I do newborn portraits, or I do natural light beach portraits only. It's kind of, to me, like a restaurant stating that I only serve cheese pizza, one size, and you get water, right? How many times are they going to come back for that? And also with kids' portraits, the kids grow up. There's newborn portraiture, children, toddlers, and then school-age kids. And they all market differently when you're out as a business owner marketing. But my studio provides corporate event. Okay, we do a lot of trade shows and conventions. We do family portraits, all right, and also commercial product. I can come into your park, take all these high-end images for you, get it all set up so that you'll have new, fresh marketing, high resolution, fully edited, retouched, ready-to-use images. But then we can also, just recently, I went into a company here in St. Petersburg, and I photographed cables. They make cables worldwide, custom for military, boat, RV industry, and so on. And they needed pictures for their trade show. So I went in, set up a commercial tabletop So what I'm getting at is I provide more than one service, but all behind the camera. So at your park, you're creating more revenue streams because sure, you have your RVs and then you have cabins and then you have RV and boat storage. Maybe you have a store that's bringing revenue. Talk to me about how that helps enhance your bottom line and your customer's experience.
Well, when you're talking about bottom line and you're talking about a store, for example, there is cost associated with that investment. So even in your business, when you have to take a picture of cables now, you might have had to go get a new lens or something to be set up to be able to do that. So I started mentioning earlier, we have 20 acres that we keep mowed like a golf course. We have 4 bathrooms with 11 toilets that we keep spotlessly clean. We have 5 jacuzzis that we can deliver to your site, set up for you. We have a virtual store. Our store is open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the reason why I mentioned this is because a lot of RV destinations have stores that are actually costing them more money to keep that store open. They're not selling enough candy and ice cream out of that store to pay the person to stand behind the counter 12 hours a day. Okay. So you got to make sure that this asset is not a liability. And we do all of this. We escort everybody to their site. We deliver the mail and packages. We do all of this with one employee.
Wow.
So the only way you can do that is if you're functionally designed correctly so that you don't have paper towels in the bathrooms. We have electric hand dryers. We never have to pull a paper towel out of the drain or the toilet or stock paper towels or buy paper towels because we don't have paper towels, okay? That's inefficient, all right? We have a custom-built hot water generation system that will fill those jacuzzis very quickly. You have to design your RV destination correctly so that you can run it efficiently. The barrier to entry in the RV industry is the sewer. We're on public water and public sewer, so we solved that. The barrier to operations is help. Finding an employee that will have pride and do his job very well. So we have a virtual store 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can go on the app on your phone and you can say, I want to purchase firewood or I want to purchase this chair, whatever. And my one employee has a work phone on his hip that I can get a hold of him with, and it buzzes and it says, Site 24 just purchased some firewood. And he goes to a locked storage compartment and gets the firewood and delivers it to that site. We have zero loss due to theft. Absolutely zero. There's no little kid walking up and down the aisles and accidentally putting a candy bar in their pocket. Okay. We don't have aisles. Okay. We have a locked storage room where everything is kept. And only a few people have a key to that. We have zero loss due to spoilage because we don't sell milk. We don't sell ice cream. Okay. So I don't have to stock it. I don't have to throw it out when it's bad. I don't have to cool it. I don't have any of that. Okay. We sell RV necessities. And if you want ice cream, there's a grocery store 2 miles up the road.
That is another genius from Ed Bridgman there, guys. Mr. Ed Bridgman laid something out, the virtual store. I would venture to say that that's new to a lot of our listeners that own RV parks. And it's certainly mind-blowing to me. And I appreciate that nugget right there because it's very helpful. I have a small campground, and so to uphold a store is quite expensive. And for me, it's just a convenient service, but it's not a moneymaker. But because of you, it will be now. So
we provide a convenient service, but it doesn't cost us any money to do it.
Yes.
So you were asking about diversification. Homestead RV Community is not only a profit center where we rent out sites, but it's also where I beta test RV industry products, both software and hardware. I have beta tested most of the reservation software that's out there, and then I have beta tested all of the electrical meters and transmitters and water meters that are out there. We're getting ready to do one for Dune here pretty quick. So I test all these products. And then third, Homestead RV Community is my sales floor, my showroom for my clients to travel to South Alabama, and I can show them, this is what I can design for you. This is what the state of the art looks like. This is how efficient it can run. Now let me design and help you build yours. Or we can take an existing RV destination and help them modernize it. The median age of an RV destination in the United States is 40 years old. 77% of them are older than 20. How old is yours?
My park is 42 years old.
It's like a new or something.
That's because I've told you, I would imagine at some point. But we have underway, we're upgrading all the Wi-Fi service in our park, and I'm very excited about that. That's been a round robin and a whole nother podcast for another time. I'm going to jump forward for the sake of time. We're moving into getting near the end. So I'm going to pick a few more questions, and then we'll do our closing and all of that. This has been phenomenal. It's been mind-boggling. It's been innovative and also motivating. And I know that if it's motivating me, it's going to motivate our listeners as well. So let's have this. Okay, guys, let me back up a minute. Forgive me. I want to go to a number 11. Okay, I just talked about marketing in my last podcast. So we're going to skip 10, jump into 11. My business has always picked 2 or 3 charities for my business to give back to. What type of philanthropic activity are you doing? And you've already mentioned a lot of what you're doing for other business owners. Is there anything else you're doing to put your park on the map and just to give back for the sake of doing so?
So I purchased my property in January of 2013, and it was several years of getting the engineering, getting the permitting, getting everything ready to where I could break ground. And then I had open heart surgery, and I had a couple other problems that gave me a couple of speed bumps. So during that time, I had already, before I left Texas, I had already started a volunteer fire department. That's kind of a funny story on its own. I accidentally set my neighbor's pasture on fire. And so by public demand, it was decided that we needed a volunteer fire department out in our rural area. So I went ahead and started that. But so I had a lot of volunteer fire department experience. So as soon as I got to South Alabama, I joined the volunteer fire department. But I had already been teaching as a professor at 3 different universities. So I went to the high schools, the local high schools, 3 different local high schools. And I said, I've made up this curriculum that I think will be ideal for young high school kids. And it's all about taking responsibility, and it's all about managing money. Kids today don't know how a checkbook works. Okay. And so I said, I've created this course that I would like to instruct 1 day a week, and I'll do it each semester. And the people that were in power, they said, "Oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what we need, but we're not going to pay you. We don't have any money for that." And I said, I didn't ask for any money. Okay. So Tuesdays, I went to Theodore High School. Wednesdays, I went to Davison High School. And Thursdays, I went to the Alabama School of Math and Science. And I volunteered my time every single Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I taught every single high school class. It was the health department. They just gave me the health department on those days. And the health teacher just sat back and graded papers or something. So I really enjoy teaching, and I've done a lot of volunteer fire stuff.
Awesome. Well, Ed, I appreciate that. We could have another 6 podcasts, I think, together, and we just might do that so that you know. Right now, we're dropping 1 a month, and I'm looking at maybe increasing that. So I'll give you a shout because you are a plethora of knowledge in business, and it seems to fit almost any business, and you've conquered all the businesses that you've had in front of you, and you've taken a couple of shots like open heart surgery, and you got back up, pulled your bootstraps up, and went for it, and have been successful. I admire that a lot. So I'm going to ask you some questions. These are short, really quick answers. We just have fun doing them. I used to watch this interview program called the Inside the Actor's Studio. I keep mentioning it here, hoping people will go back. A gentleman named James Lipton made these questions kind of famous. Bernard Pivot wrote them, okay, and James Lipton used them. They're both passed away, but I love these set of questions. Have fun with this, relax with it, and just kind of go from there. So what's your favorite word?
No. I think no is very powerful. Okay. I've been a manager. I've had 300 people working for me at Motorola, and people would come in and whine, and they would tell me about all their problems and all this stuff. And what I called it was they were bringing the monkey with them. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to leave the monkey with me. They wanted me to fix their problem. And when I say, I'll listen to you, come on in, I'll give you some attention. But when you leave, you got to take your monkey with you. Okay. So no, I'm not, you made your problem, you made your bed, and you're going to have to fix it. But take your monkey and go.
I love that.
No is an important word that we must get used to using, get comfortable using.
And sometimes we don't say it enough, and then you get walked on and all of those things. I love it. What is your least favorite word?
I think people who cuss have small vocabularies. If that's the best word you can come up with, you need to go back and do more reading and maybe a little more education and find a better adjective that better describes the actual issue. Okay, nine times out of 10, just because you cussed at it, we still don't know why you're upset with it. You know, is it broken? Is it dirty? What? I understand that you don't like it, but I don't have any idea why, because you use such a stupid word. So
I love that, and it really doesn't further the situation in any way. So
all you do is just offend me.
In life, what turns you on?
I am a newlywed. I've only been married for a couple of years. My wife is the most beautiful, intelligent, funny, best woman best person I've ever met. I am such a fortunate person to have met her, to have won her over. I'm married way above my pay grade. Okay. She far surpasses my expectations every day.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear that. I'm in my 28th year of marriage, and my wife is so smart, so gorgeous, so awesome. I pinch myself and ask, why is she hanging out with this old guy? But she is. We're only 4 years apart, actually, but she's just smart. So I understand that blessing, and we know where it comes from. You know, that's a God thing for sure. So in life, what turns you off?
Liars. I cannot stand a liar. The smallest lie. If you'll lie about something, you think you can get by. Liar, not you. I'm not saying you. Okay. Liars feel like they can get by with stuff because they can just lie their way out of it. So they're capable of murder. They're capable of the worst crimes in the world because they're planning on just lying their way out of it anyway. So once you make a choice that I'm going to take responsibility for everything I do, everything that I say, everything that happens to me, I'm going to take responsibility. And if somebody says, Ed, did you do that? If I know for a fact that I'm going to have to say, yeah, I did that, then I'm going to make certain that I don't do things that I'm not willing to own up to. And so immediately, once you make your decision that you're never going to tell a lie, your life becomes so much easier.
I love it. That's well said, and it's from the perspective of a business owner who manages a lot of people. And if you own a company and you have employees, you have great employees that you love, and you try everything in your power to empower them. I know that about you. But then you also get those that lie and do all the things that are manipulative. Yep, out. See ya. I agree with you. I'm at a point where You've gotten it enough that I'm not going to get burned again. If you're going to play games, go work somewhere else. We don't have that kind of business here. I'm going to skip the rest of the questions for time. But Ed, in closing, right into the microphone, tell the world how they can find you. How can they get your consulting services, and how can they go camping with you?
Well, I hope that they'll go to the website eob-consulting.com. That's Echo Oscar Bravo -consulting.com. You can also call me directly at 512-785-1379. 512-785-1379. My email is my initials, eob@eob-consulting.com. You can also go to homervc.com and see the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. And you can take a virtual tour and see how you can stay at Homestead.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know that people will want to stay with you. My mind is blown. I looked up to you as a member of the association and all that you've accomplished, but that just got deeper and went farther from our conversation today. I learned more about you than I knew, and I'm blown away at your tenacity, your drive, your forward motion, the inertia, your faith that allows you to walk in that without any concerns or trepidation, to take the chances. As long as God is in it, you do it. So thank you. I have a few closing comments, and I appreciate it. And promise me this, let's have you back again next year. What do you think? All right. I love it. Thank you. All right. Thank you for hanging out with us on the Camera Dude podcast. Remember, always reach out to those that have paved the way ahead of you for success. They are a great resource. Until the next one, stay safe, be peaceful, and always look up for directions in life. Catch you on the next Camera Dude podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Camera Dude Podcast. Don't forget to visit us at cameradudepodcast.com for more episodes and exclusive content. Connect with Rob Moorman on moormanphoto.com to explore his professional photography. And when you're ready to hit the road, make memories at sunburstrvresort.com. Until next time, keep capturing moments and chasing dreams. See you on the next episode of the Camera Dude Podcast.